Hi guys! Today we get to start our conversation about muscles. We're going to spend most of the next 3 lectures talking about skeletal muscle tissue, but there actually are 2 other kinds of muscle tissue, and I want to start us off talking about muscle tissue in general. For perspective, I want to remind you that muscle tissue is one of our 4 main tissue types that are found in the body. Remember that they were epithelial tissue, been there, done that. Connective tissue, been there, done that many times. Muscle tissue, doing that right now. And nervous tissue. And nervous tissue gets to wait until the next section is going to start us off and go into our 6th lecture conversation about the nervous system. So it makes sense that we'll start this discussion by looking at what muscle tissue is overall. First of all, muscle tissue has a very unique structure that enables its function, which is shortening. Muscle tissue shortens, and usually muscle tissue shortens muscle cells shorten along their long axis. So if you imagine a cell that muscle cells actually are either sort of oblong or really oblong and kind of just long, and they shorten along their long axis. We're going to look at skeletal muscle cells in detail and the anatomy and how a skeletal muscle cell is really compared to our normal vision of what a cell actually is. Because muscle tissue shortens like this, then we can have many different functions, and we should put muscle tissue inside structures that we want to change shape. Some of the functions of muscle tissue, skeletal muscle tissue, like this bad boy skeletal muscle tissue often will span a joint, and when it shortens, it actually causes movement. You guys are totally good with that because we just did that. We're talking about joints then. It's skeletal muscles that power that. Smooth muscle, okay, we got a couple of different kinds of muscle tissue. We have skeletal muscle, cardiac muscle. Now, in talking about what these are, keep in mind skeletal muscle, we're going to talk about it a ton. Smooth muscle, we've already seen a little bit, and cardiac muscle, we're only going to find in the heart. I'm going to talk about these muscle tissues really fast to give you some histological perspective, because today in lab, we are going to look at these different kinds of tissues. Does it look kind of like what that is? There's actually smooth muscle tissue. This is a long section of smooth muscle cells. This is like a cross section where we took them right down the middle and sliced them up, and now they look like little dots. Most of our slides don't stay that awesome so you don't forget it. And the deep breath that you're taking is, I'm just telling you, cardiac muscle is striated. When I look at this slide, I'm like, oh, of course it's striated. I can totally see the striations. But sometimes I think that in histology we can see the things that we know are already there. So let's talk about some of the characteristics of cardiac muscle. There's one nucleus per cell. Okay, it is striated. They branch, the cells branch apart. All of the cells branch. And they connect. The cells connect to each other at structures called, are you ready here? Now, take a deep breath, and I'm going to draw over. See that little line right there? That is not a striation. That's actually an intercalated disc where this cell, this cardiac muscle cell, is connecting to this cardiac muscle cell. Now, I don't know if I can see a place that illustrates super here. Oh my gosh, look, here's an intercalated disc. I just drew over the top of it. And here's another characteristic of cardiac muscle that is really cool. Oh, I already wrote that down. It branches and it has intercalated discs, of course. But that's a great example of branching. Now, branching and intercalated discs are really important structures, especially for physiology, because the heart never stops beating ever until you are dead. And then that's sad. We're sorry that your heart never stops beating. So the intercalated discs help hold the heart together. They also help the heart muscle contract all together without actually needing nervous input. Let's take a little fast back and we'll deal with when we get to the heart. Okay, and this, my friends, this is where we're spending most of our time. In lab today, we are going to have slides of smooth muscle and cardiac muscle, and you're going to have to identify them on the practical and on all your notes and whatever. But skeletal muscle is where we're focusing here on Anatomy. So here's what I want to tell you. Skeletal muscle. Skeletal muscle is a single cell is this long, crazy thing right there. And when you notice, look, what's that thing? And that thing, and that thing, and that thing. This is one cell. Doggies. There's like a million nuclei in skeletal muscle. Skeletal muscle cells have many nuclei. That's one of the characteristics. That says nuclei. Do you see bone that it attaches to. And we would have striations in this thing that would indicate fiber direction. And then those fibers would shorten, and that would shorten the muscle and bring the two bones together. Do you have a vision for where we are? Okay, look, we're going to do a cross section in my crazy vision. This is the organ, the muscle organ. And each level of organization is covered with a connective tissue casing. And the muscle organ is covered in a connective tissue casing called epimysium. Epimysium surrounds the entire muscle organ. We go in and look at our bodies, we can actually grab an entire muscle organ and the connective tissue that covers it, that's the epimysium. This is not on accident, it's on purpose that you notice that the epimysium is the same color as my tendon, and that's because the epimysium is a structure that eventually becomes tendons. It's what actually connects to the bone organ itself. Now, the muscle organ is made of these structures called fascicles. So if you were to do a cross section of a muscle organ, you would see these circular fascicles. Fascicles, let's just name them fascicles. The fascicles are surrounded by their own connective tissue covering. So each fascicle is surrounded by a connective tissue. It's not epi on the outside. It's not endo on the inside, so that gives you a hint to what we're looking at here. This is actually called perimysium. Perimysium surrounds each individual fascicle. If you go, we talked about in the last section, if you like string meat or steak or meat, you can pull pieces of it and like string it all up. You can make a pulled pork sandwich. All of those pulled pieces that you string out, those are all fascicles surrounded by perimysium. Perimysium actually keeps the fascicle together. Epimysium keeps the organ together. Now, if we were to take the fascicle out, what is this fascicle that you speak of, Riggs? Look. Oh, a fascicle is a bundle of something, and are you ready to know what the bundle of is? Okay, watch. Oh, look at my incredible, dang it, I wish I would have used a different color. I did not use a different color. Some opportunities are just lost. This little thing that I pulled out, there are a whole bunch of them that make up the fascicle. This is called a myofiber. Fiber. The connective tissue going on. Myofibrils are bundles of myofilaments. Now, we have two flavors of myofilaments. We have thick and would be your friendly autorhythmic cells. So, autorhythmic cells are so cool. Here's the deal. They do not have the rest of the contractile cells did not have special we're going to repolarize. How about opening up some potassium?